My parents remembered me only when they wanted a luxury SUV, but I gave them a $10 surprise instead. I'm Claire, 34, and last month I blew out candles over a grocery cake in my one-bedroom in St. Louis while pretending it didn't sting. I rent the top floor of a creaky brick triplex that smells like coffee in the mornings and radiator dust in the winters. It's small, but I've made it mine. Plants in mismatched pots, a blue love seat that squeaks, a corkboard full of ticket stubs, and to-do lists from a life I built without much help. I work as a project coordinator at a mid-sized marketing agency off Market Street. It's not glamorous, but I like watching ragged ideas turn into clean campaigns. I know how to wrangle calendars, soothe panicked designers, and talk a client down from changing everything by Friday at noon. My friends there are the sort who remember your favorite pastry and hide it in the break room for bad days. My family lives 25 minutes west, in the same beige split level where I learned to parallel park and burn grilled cheese. My mother, Diane, and my father, Frank, are 59 and welded to their routines. My younger brother, Tyler, 29, rents a studio the size of a closet 2 neighborhoods over when he remembers to go home. They've been paying his rent for years and sliding him cash like it's a vitamin he forgets to take. Here's where people tilt their heads when I tell it. For 6 birthdays in a row, my family forgot mine. Not late. Not, we'll celebrate next weekend. Not a card, a text, a call. Zero. The kind of quiet you hear when you pull a plug. The first time it happened, I gave him a pass. It was a bad winter. Frank's company merged, Diane's office changed software. Tyler promised he was finally getting serious. I called a few days later and got the performance. Diane gasping like she'd missed a flight. Oh, honey, we've been buried. We'll make it up to you next year, I swear. Next year came and went, and so did the next 4. The script stayed polished. Whenever I raised it, I got apologies with no dates attached. Meanwhile, Tyler's birthdays were choreographed like Broadway. Steakhouse reservations, group photos under helium balloons, envelopes thick with cash, a parade of sun. We're so proud. The imbalance would have been funny if it didn't live in my throat. Their absence bled into the rest. They hadn't been to my apartment in 4 years. Diane still pictured the floral wallpaper I tore down ages ago. They asked about that old roommate, whose name was my landlord's. They loved the idea of me the way people love a local team they never watch. This year I decided experiments need clear variables. 2 weeks before my birthday, I sent a clean, unmistakable text to all 3. Dinner for my birthday, Saturday, June 14th, 7:30 p.m., Trattoria del Mar. Table under Claire. Would love to see you. No hints. No koi emoji. A week out, I followed up with a simple checking you got this. Diane replied with polished vagueness. We'll try, dear. Work is hectic. We'll let you know. Frank sent a thumbs-up sticker that looked like it belonged to someone else's conversation. Tyler never answered. My friends showed up in full force. We packed into a corner banquette under a shelf of dusty Chianti bottles and a crooked photograph of a bicycle. Olivia slid me a scarf in a color that made my eyes look greener. Jude handed over first edition paperbacks he'd tracked down from a store that smells like old cedar. The bartender stuck a sparkler into a scoop of pistachio gelato, and the whole room clapped. I laughed, really laughed, because I had people who knew me and still chose me. But even as I held their eyes, my phone stayed face up, black and uncomplicated. No text, no missed call, no running late. When the check came, I didn't pretend to be surprised. After, they crowded into my apartment, elbow to elbow, dropping gifts on the coffee table. Someone put Coltrane on low. We drank cheap Prosecco out of chipped mugs because I own more plants than glasses. We told stories that had nothing to do with blood and everything to do with choice. When the last hug clicked the door shut, the silence felt like a soft coat I didn't have to wear for anyone else. I stacked cards by the sink and traced the loop of Olivia's handwriting with my thumb. Gratitude sat warm in my chest. So did the hollow. Those feelings can live next door. I told myself, again, that I was done handing my parents chances like coupons that never got redeemed. But old habits have a strange gravity. The next morning, muscle memory pushed my thumb toward my messages before I yanked it back. I brewed coffee. I watered the snake plant. I put the scarf around my shoulders and faced the day like it owed me nothing. A week later, my phone lit up at 10:12 a.m. with a name I knew as well as my own. Diane. I stared at it long enough to watch the second ring become the third. I almost let it go to voicemail. Almost. Claire, sweetheart, she started. Honey poured over gravel. We just realized we missed your birthday. I feel awful. Come over Saturday. I want to cook. We have a present for you. In 6 years, she'd never offered that. Not once. I could hear pots in the background, the clatter of a fork against a pan like an actor shaking a prop to prove it's real. Something in me uncurled and bristled at the same time. Saturday, I said, steady. 6 o'clock. Yes, she rushed. 6. I'll make your favorites. Which favorites? The ones I liked when I was 17 and could eat anything after track practice? Or the ones I'd learned to like when I started listening to my body and not the menu? I hung up and stared out the window at the alley, where a neighbor's wind chime clicked without quite ringing. Part of me wanted to believe this was the year the script changed. The other part began marking pages, just in case. Saturday at 6 sharp, I pulled into the driveway of my parents' split level and sat for a full minute with the engine off. The curtains in the front room twitched like they'd been on watch for me. I wasn't used to being anticipated here. Usually I was the afterthought, the extra plate left in the oven if it was convenient. Diane opened the door before I even touched the bell, arms wide as if she'd rehearsed the gesture. "Claire, you look wonderful," she said, voice syrupy. Frank appeared behind her, giving me the sort of side hug you give a stranger you've been told is a cousin. Inside, the smell hit me: fried chicken, buttery mashed potatoes, and a dense, sweet weight of chocolate cream pie. Foods I used to eat in high school after track meets, before my knees started warning me about grease. "You made," I trailed off, forcing a smile. "Your favorites," Diane finished proudly, bustling back toward the kitchen. "And I got those dinner rolls from the bakery you love." I hadn't eaten there in a decade. Tyler was already at the table, his phone angled away from view, thumb scrolling. He glanced up long enough to say, "Hey," before retreating into whatever universe he lives in when we share a room. The table was set like a holiday, polished flatware, wine glasses I'd never seen them use. Diane loaded my plate as though feeding a lumberjack. I took a careful bite, chewing past the heaviness, and tried to act like it was the most natural thing in the world. "We're just so sorry we missed your birthday," Diane said, eyes on her fork. "We had this crisis at work, and, well," she let the sentence fade into steam from the potatoes. "These things happen," I said, which was a lie we both let sit between us. Frank cleared his throat. We felt terrible, honestly. Halfway through the meal, Diane disappeared into the hallway and came back with a box the size of a shoebox, wrapped in metallic paper. She set it in front of me with the same satisfaction you see in game show hosts revealing the prize. I peeled back the paper to find a ceramic lamp, glazed a soft blue with a spray of painted daisies. $18, maybe 20 if you count the bulb. "It matches your wallpaper perfectly," she said. "I changed that wallpaper to plain white 3 years ago. It's lovely," I managed. She beamed. "I told your father it was meant for you." Frank nodded like he'd just been reminded. He agreed. Tyler didn't look up from his phone. Then, as if following a cue, Diane tilted her head. "Oh, I heard you were promoted." "Senior, what is it again?" My fork paused midair. "Senior project analyst." "How'd you hear that?" "You know Margaret's daughter, Kelsey, works in your building." "She told Margaret at the grocery store, and she told me." I'd seen Kelsey in the elevator maybe twice. We'd never spoken. "That's wonderful," Frank said, suddenly animated. "Why didn't you tell us?" I swallowed my bite. "Didn't think you'd be interested." "Not interested?" "You're our daughter," Diane said, reaching over to pat my hand. "We want to hear all about the good things in your life." 6 years of skipped birthdays, missed calls, and not knowing the color of my living room told me otherwise, but I didn't say that. "It comes with a raise," I said instead. "Good for you, Claire," Tyler offered without glancing up, the words landing flat as his monotone. By 10, I stood at the door, lamp under my arm. Diane hugged me again, her perfume cloying and sweet. "Let's not wait so long next time," she said. "Sure," I said. In the car, I set the lamp on the passenger seat. Its daisy-speckled surface gleamed under the streetlights, a gift from people who still thought I lived behind floral wallpaper. When I got home, I put it in the back of my closet, behind a winter coat I never wear. Out of sight, but not out of mind, because whatever was going on tonight had nothing to do with remembering my birthday, and everything to do with something I hadn't seen yet. 2 Thursdays later, Diane texted like it was urgent. "Dinner, 7 o'clock, something fun to share." Fun had never been our family's native language, but I drove over anyway, curiosity hitching a ride with suspicion. The table was lighter this time: roast chicken, asparagus, a lemon tart that tasted like a magazine recipe. Less nostalgia, more presentation. Tyler arrived late, smelling faintly of cologne and gasoline, tossed his keys on the counter, and dropped into a chair like he'd earned it. Diane waited until coffee to produce the announcement. She laced her fingers together, the way she does when she wants to be the center of a room. Your father and I are celebrating 36 years in 3 weeks, she said. We've booked the Willow Arcade downtown, strings of lights, the whole thing. We want to do it properly. Frank smiled on cue. Everyone will be there. Everyone, Diane echoed, eyes bright. I've been organizing gifts so we don't end up with 5 toasters. She laughed, a delicate tinkle that never reached her eyes. I asked Aunt Marlene for new dish towels. She finds the best linens. Your Uncle Ray is bringing a coffee machine. The neighbors promised a set of candles, hand-poured, the nice kind. She flicked a look at Tyler. And your brother is getting us an outdoor grill we've had our eye on. Tyler shrugged. The stainless one with the side burner. 1,200. It's sick. Very thoughtful, I said, stirring my coffee. So what do you want from me? Diane didn't blink. A car. The spoon stopped. The room did, too. Even Tyler's thumb paused over his phone. A car. I repeated, as if testing a foreign word. Something modest, but reliable. Frank cut in, as though moderation made the ask, saying, We've been meaning to upgrade for ages. Diane leaned forward. We thought a compact SUV. Safe. Comfortable. It would mean so much to us, Claire. After all your success, you deserve to do something memorable. And it would be an elegant way to celebrate family. Memorable. Elegant. Family. The pitch slid over me like oil on glass. I could have said what rose to my tongue. That 6 years of forgotten birthdays had earned them a candle, not an odometer. I could have hauled the ledger of slights into the light and made them look. Instead, I smiled the way you smile at a neighbor who insists you must try their casserole. Of course, I said softly. I'll get you a car. Diane's hand flew to her mouth, eyes watering instantly. Oh, Claire. Frank exhaled like a man reprieved. That's generous. Anything for you, I said, and heard how even I could make that sound convincing. On the drive home, the city blurred past, brick and neon, steam lifting off manhole covers. The word car took up too much space in the car I already owned, echoing off the windshield. By the time I pulled into my spot, the anger had settled into something colder and more useful. The next morning, the links started arriving. Diane had turned into a one-woman dealership. This one is perfect, she texted, attaching a glossy white crossover priced at $37,000 and change. Maybe red? So cheerful. A sport package bumped another into the mid-40s. Frank chimed in with a silver hybrid. Good mileage. Your mother likes the seats. A final volley, a pearl-painted model with a panoramic roof and a sticker pushing 52. I sent back hearts, thumbs UPS, a wow face. They flooded me with exclamation points like confetti. Each bubble that popped on my screen made the plan in my head sharper, cleaner. At lunch, I walked 2 blocks to Willow Arcade and pretended to be a woman comparing venues. The event manager, a cheerful guy with a clipboard, chatted as he showed me the courtyard strung with Edison bulbs and the side room draped in white. He mentioned their sound system, the bar setup, the capacity, 70, comfortably. I stored the details. I pictured Diane holding court near the cake, Frank practicing his toast, relatives clustering in polite knots. I pictured a tiny box in my hand and a very specific silence when it opened. That evening, I pulled the daisy lamp from my closet and set it on the table. The glaze caught the kitchen light, all pleasant and harmless. I ran my fingers over the painted petals and thought about the word match. It didn't match my life. It did, however, match their story about me. Simpler, dimmer, easy to ignore until you need it. Over the next week, Diane called more often. Her voice had a new buoyancy, like the RSVP count was a personal compliment. She dropped in little reminders the way waiters refill water. Don't forget to bring the paperwork for the car. And if there's a key fob, we should do a photo with the bow, and maybe park it out front. So dramatic. I murmured agreement and took notes on everything that would make the reveal more theatrical. Tyler texted once, a unicorn. You really buying them wheels? That's the plan, I wrote back. You're wild, he replied, which I couldn't parse. Judgment, admiration, or relief that I'd foot the spectacle he couldn't afford. 3 nights before the party, Diane sent a final decision. We love the Pearl, the one with the big screen. It's exactly 50. We can meet you at the lot Friday to sign anything if needed. I replied with a smiley and a thumbs up, then closed my phone, leaned back, and listened to the hum of my old refrigerator. Rage can be loud, resolve isn't. Mine sounded like steady air. I found a small velvet box at a thrift store, the kind that usually holds earrings. I cleaned the inside felt until it looked new, then set a $10 bill inside, folded once. The bill wasn't the point. The size of the box was. On Friday, Olivia and I grabbed lunch in the park. I told her everything, from the lamp to the links to the pearl-painted dream car I'd agreed to buy. She went very still, then grinned like a match had just taken. "You're going to set the room on fire," she said. "Just a controlled burn," I said. "A little truth can be flammable." "Want me there?" she asked. "No," I said. "This is a family show. But keep your phone on." That night, I set the velvet box beside my keys, slid the lamp back into a tote, and laid out a dress that didn't apologize for being in the room. I stood in front of the mirror and practiced 2 sentences until they lost their tremor. Then I turned off the light and slept like a person who finally knew what she was going to say. 2 weeks before the anniversary, the weather turned the color of wet steel, and the air felt heavy, like a barometer warning in my bones. The mood inside my parents' house matched it. Every time I stopped by, there was some new update about the guest list. Diane had a spiral notebook that looked like a war log. Names were checked, crossed, circled. People were bailing. Not dramatically, just quietly declining, citing travel, money, the flu that's going around. She chalked it up to bad timing. I chalked it up to her reputation. Frank, usually silent, started pacing. 70 guests won't fill the courtyard, he muttered one evening. We need at least 90 to look respectable. That's not your problem, Diane said. Flipping a page. Claire's bringing the car. That's all people will remember. She said it with the confidence of someone who thought a shiny object could rewrite history. I kept nodding, agreeing, even as the plan in my head grew more intricate. The more they treated me like a guaranteed prize, the sweeter the reversal would be. The following Friday, I accidentally ran into Olivia at the coffee shop near the arcade. She knew my expression before I spoke. "They're circling the drain," I said. She grinned. "Good. Circling makes the crash more satisfying." We sat in the corner with our cappuccinos, and I laid it out. The velvet box, the $10 bill, the lamp. She nearly spilled her coffee. "They're going to implode," she said, eyes shining. "That's the goal," I replied. Meanwhile, Diane kept texting me photos of SUVs like she was sending me baby pictures. "This one has heated steering. Look at this cargo space. Imagine us pulling up to the grocery store in this beauty." I kept sending back heart emojis, and wow. She never caught the sarcasm. Frank called once, his tone unusually careful. "Make sure the bow is big enough to be seen from across the courtyard," he said. "It's all about presentation." "I'll handle it," I said, smiling into the receiver. By now, I'd learned they didn't want a gift, they wanted a performance. Fine, I'd give them one. The week before the event, I took a slow drive past Willow Arcade. The lights were already strung, glowing faintly in the drizzle. Workers were setting up a temporary bar in the courtyard. I could picture it exactly. The crowd gathering, the speeches starting, the moment they'd call me forward. I'd hand over the velvet box, they'd open it, and the silence would spread like frost on glass. Olivia called that night. "Are you sure you want to go through with it?" "Positive," I said. "This isn't revenge. This is clarity. In public." She laughed. "Remind me never to get on your bad side." 3 nights before the party, Diane called breathless. "Everything's coming together. Oh, you'll love this. We're doing a slideshow of family photos." I pictured the grainy snapshots they'd choose. My crooked front teeth at 7, braces at 12, acne at 15. Not one from the last decade. "That's great," I said. "And make sure you bring the paperwork for the car," she added. I hung up and sat in the dark for a while. If there was ever a moment to break the cycle, it was now. The evening of the anniversary, St. Louis was drenched in amber light, the kind that makes even cracked sidewalks look like they belong in a photograph. I parked 2 blocks from Willow Arcade so no one would see me arrive without their prized SUV. The velvet box rested in my purse like a coiled secret. The daisy lamp was wrapped in plain brown paper under my arm. Inside, the place hummed. The courtyard's string lights glowed against the fading sky, reflecting off wine glasses and polished shoes. Frank stood near the bar, already flushed. Diane floated between groups, wearing a sequin dress that caught every bit of light. She spotted me instantly, face bright with performance. "Claire's here," she called, and the murmur of conversation shifted toward me. I could feel eyes scanning for car keys, for a giant bow, for something with 4 wheels. Tyler leaned on the bar, suit jacket unbuttoned, eyes flicking from me to Diane and back. There was a small smirk there, as if he suspected the script might not go the way they'd rehearsed. Dinner passed in a blur of polite conversation and overcooked salmon. Every time I caught Diane's gaze, she gave me the kind of smile that says remember your lines. I gave her one back that said just wait. When the plates were cleared, Frank clinked his glass. Friends, family, thank you for being here to celebrate 36 years with my beautiful wife. There was applause. Diane dabbed at her eyes. We've been blessed, he continued. And tonight we've been especially blessed by our children, who have been so generous. He gestured toward Tyler. Our son has given us the grill we've always wanted. Tyler raised his glass without looking up from the ice cubes inside. And, Frank said, turning to me with the precision of a stage cue, our daughter Claire has given us something extraordinary. Something that shows her heart and her success. Honey, come up here. I stepped forward, feeling the crowd lean in. Diane's hands trembled in excitement. I pulled the velvet box from my purse, held it up so everyone could see, then placed it gently in her palms. Gasps rippled. Someone murmured, car keys. Diane tore at the ribbon, flipped open the lid, and froze. The $10 bill lay there like a dead leaf. Her expression shifted in seconds. Anticipation, confusion, recognition, rage. Frank peered over her shoulder. What is this? I took the microphone Frank had been holding. It's exactly 10 times more than you've given me for my birthday in the past 6 years, I said, my voice carrying over the courtyard. And in exchange for that, you asked me for a $50,000 car. The murmurs turned sharper, slicing through the warm evening air. Claire, Diane started, her voice too high. I cut her off. For 6 straight years, you forgot my birthday. No card, no call, nothing. Until you heard about my promotion. Then suddenly, dinners, presents, conversations. Not because you missed me, but because you wanted something. Heads turned. People shifted uncomfortably. I caught the eye of Aunt Marlene, who shook her head slowly. I reached into the brown paper and pulled out the lamp. And this, I said, holding it up, was your grand gesture. A lamp to match wallpaper I tore down 3 years ago. Laughter bubbled somewhere in the back, short, shocked. Diane tried to rally. She's twisting things. She's been unwell. I smiled. If refusing to be used makes me unwell, I hope I stay sick forever. Aunt Marlene stood. You should be ashamed, Diane. Others followed, relatives, old friends. Voices layering until Diane's protests were drowned. Within minutes, chairs scraped back, goodbyes were muttered, and the courtyard thinned. Tyler was one of the last to move, giving me a single nod before walking out. By the time I left, Diane stood rigid by the cake table, sequins catching the light like tiny shards. I thought that would be the end. It wasn't. 2 days later, I found an envelope wedged under my apartment door. No return address. Inside was a photo. Me at the podium, lamp in one hand, mic in the other, mouth mid-sentence. On the back, in neat block letters, you did the right thing. Now watch your back. No signature. I stared at it for a long time, the hum of my fridge the only sound. Was it Tyler? Olivia? Someone else who'd been there? I slid the photo into the same closet where the lamp now sat, its daisies dim in the shadows. Maybe it was a warning. Maybe it was approval. Either way, it meant the story wasn't as neatly finished as I'd thought. And that, strangely, didn't scare me. It thrilled me. Because if my family taught me anything, it's that some performances deserve an encore.